Well, let's bring in my next guest here, commentator and author of The Children We Left Behind, Adam B. Coleman. Adam, thanks so much for coming back on the U.S. Report. I want to start out talking about some startling, but maybe not so startling news that was revealed this week, and that was that internal FBI emails reveal that rogue, and I use that word advisedly, agents and prosecutors within the Biden Department of Justice kept looking for new ways to pile on new and more criminal charges against Donald Trump over the January 6th Capitol riot, this time over his involvement with the J6 prisoner choir, based on a single partisan news article. Adam, I know we keep talking a lot about on this program about what happened during that Biden administration, but I feel like it's important to understand just how undemocratic the Democrats, and particularly people who were running that White House, really did seem to be acting. What was your reaction when you heard about this news?
I wasn't shocked at all. Every conspiracy, every conspiracy that was out there as far as the Biden administration going after Donald Trump, just about all of them turned out to be true. The very thing that they were saying that Donald Trump was going to do in the government, they were actually doing themselves. They were projecting onto the Trump administration, onto Donald Trump himself, as this terrible character who get in a position of power and abuse his authority. Meanwhile, we're uncovering now that Joe Biden is probably the worst president, at least in my lifetime. We're uncovering that essentially Joe Biden is exactly the guy that he was warning America about.
I'm so glad, Adam, that you mentioned the word projection, because I do believe that that is the key to understanding so much of what the left is all about. But while we're on the subject of the former president, it does seem that the Democrats still cannot come to terms with this whole question of his mental decline. Here's one of our favorites from this program, Jasmine Crockett, describing her relationship with the former president. Have a listen to this.
I never saw anything in Joe Biden that made me wonder whatsoever. Even if you're saying that there was a mentally deficient Joe Biden, I know that he absolutely had a mental acuity that is supreme when it comes to comparing him to Donald Trump, because at least he kept good people around him.
I mean, the only thing supreme about Joe Biden is maybe he had about the brain of a supreme pizza. What did you make of that one?
So it sounds like she's hedging her bets. On one hand, she didn't say anything. On the other hand, well, if it did happen, it wasn't that bad. But it was bad enough for every Democrat to get behind and force Joe Biden to step down from running for president. But, she's apparently the most oblivious woman that exists in America, who doesn't utilize all of her senses, or at least one of her senses, her eyes, to see that Joe Biden is falling off his bike, falling upstairs, and constantly asleep, and when he's in meetings and muttering. Like, of course, he has a mental decline. And I actually have some empathy towards him, because I don't think he was all there in the first place. And he had people who were around him who were enabling him to move forward consistently. So more people in the Democratic Party should have actually been looking out for Joe Biden instead of using him. But they tossed him aside when it became too obvious that he couldn't move forward.
Yeah, well, Adam, I mean, on this program, we use the phrase elder abuse an awful lot during the term of his administration. But, let's move on to the Democrats still today. And one of the things that strikes me here, Adam, is that Democrats do not have any sort of positive message that would make people want to vote for them and inspire them. I mean, you've got Donald Trump, and he wants to make America great again. But instead of saying America was already great, Ilhan Omar is here explaining that America is, well, one of the worst countries in the world. Have a look at this.
I grew up in a dictatorship. And I don't even remember ever witnessing anything like that. To have a democracy, a beacon of hope for the world to now be turned into one of the worst countries where the military are in our streets.
The gratitude of Ilhan Omar coming over to the United States at the age of 8 from Somalia, which apparently, the United States is now just as bad as. I mean, look, that's pretty horrendous stuff, but how are mainstream voters ever supposed to connect again to a party that thinks there's no difference between the United States and Somalia?
I mean, obviously, this is a winning message. I mean, what proud American loves to hear that the United States is just as bad as her former nation of Somalia? I mean, because there are men in fatigues who are standing by, enforcing our laws, and doing it in an honorable manner. So these are people. Ilhan Omar is someone who is obviously anti-American, who aligns interests elsewhere and not with the American people, who more so aligns with an ethnic culture that is from abroad and not with a melting pot like America is. As a child of an immigrant, I'm proud to be born into this country. My father, who came to this country, came here for a reason, just like Ilhan Omar came to this country for a reason. But she also wants to crap all over the country that took her in as a refugee. And there is something incredibly ungrateful that is coming from her mouth. And most Americans would basically take that stance. You came from a place where you were being oppressed, that you were left behind to come to our country and crap all over it. This is where people say, you know what, go home.